a fairy tale starts with once upon a time, and a sea story with this ain't no shit. Okay. My name is Felmer Armand Cuevas, and in case you're wondering, the Felmer comes from my maternal grandfather and the Armand from my paternal grandfather, who was Nazaire Armand Cuevas. I was born in Bay St. Louis on June 29th, 1942, and the reason I came to be born there is going to be my first story. In the summer of 1942, there was a man roaming around the Gulf Coast called the Phantom Barber. Some people just simply call him the Gulf Coast Barber. And what he would do is break into people's homes at night if the wife or the woman living there had blonde or red hair, and he would cut her hair. But this guy, if he had a reason for this, many people believe that he was a German saboteur because he was educated in Germany as a chemical engineer, and his name was William Dolan. He eventually was caught, but my mother had real long blonde natural hair, and she was pregnant with me. And my daddy was a cop and worked all night, so no one was home to watch after my mother. And they thought that by moving Mama to Bay St. Louis to live close to my uncles and other kin people, that she would be safer. And as a coincidence, this man was arrested 2 weeks before I was born, living two doors from my mother in Bay St. Louis.
Where she moved to. Wow.
The reason that they might have caught him was because the FBI, who was involved in the case, and the other police considered that Bay St. Louis was the only city or town that he didn't do his dirty deeds in. So he must live there. He wouldn't do his things there because he'd be recognized. Well, he was sentenced to prison, and I've only learned recently that he was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and Governor Fielding Wright is the one that either pardoned him or saw to his parole 6 years after prison. Many people believe that he wasn't the right guy, but many people believe that he does. I told that story once at Ingalls, and it was at the Plan Vault, which was in the old administration building on East Bank. And the man that ran that was Terrell Heidelberg. And he was standing at the outside of the ring of people listening to my story. And of course, everybody's calling BS on this and BS on that. And Terrell said, "You think it's bullshit? Let me show you something." He pushed his way into the middle of the circle, pulled his hair back, and he said, "See these scars? The SOB beat my head with a pipe and knocked all my wife's teeth out because he came to our home at night thinking I was at work and I wasn't." And another time that I was vindicated is I was telling this to a young lawyer in Bay St. Louis with Teddy Matthews. And the lawyer's name is Nick Haas, Haas. And you could tell from his body movements, motions, such, that he didn't really believe this story. And he said, "Now, what year was that?" And I said, 1942. He said, "My dad was around here. Uh, he might remember that story. I'll get him." Well, he was a senior partner in that. His office down the hall, so he brings his daddy back, and he says, "Now tell Pop what that story was." And I told him. And the son asked the daddy, "Do you remember this?" He said, "Remember it." And he started telling us who the judge at his trial was, what members of the jury, and he told this lawyer, "Yeah, your uncle so and so, he was involved in the trial." So he remembered the story well. And I've read several articles in the newspaper over the years about this. So this was a real no shitter.
Right.
And that's how I came to be born in Bay St. Louis. And when Mama brought me home from the hospital, it was straight to Polk Avenue in Pascagoula. That little house is still standing and it's being worked on as we speak.
On Polk Avenue.
on Polk Avenue. It's located immediately behind New York Pete. So if I tell you it's a no shitter, it means it's a true story. And if you want to believe the stories, that's okay. If you don't, won't offend me at all.